and welcome to the Kirsty Knits and Sews podcast. My name is Kirsty and this is my channel where I talk about all things knitting and some things crochet, sewing, other crafty goodness. Today is November 1st and I'm coming to you from Rzeszów in Poland, where I live with my husband and my two beautiful children. Welcome. It has been a while since I've checked in here. I did upload a podcast a couple of weeks ago, but that was actually recorded in September. I was very sick at the beginning of October, but I'm back and I've been knitting and I have lots of things to share with you. The first thing that I have to share is my finished Nico sweater. So this is a sweater that I was doing as a test knit for Carolina of Kutka.knits, who designs in conjunction with Gabbo wool, which is the wool that I used, the company of the wool that I used for this sweater. It is called the Nico sweater, Niko, and I really, really love it. I have knit quite a few colourwork sweaters before. I've knit or jacquard, colourwork, Fair Isle, take your pick of names. I think they're all the same. But this one, I just found it so simple, so easy. There were lots of instructions about which colour to hold dominant, which means which one's going to pop out more and which one should take the back seat, which was the opposite of what I had expected. So I was really glad for that note. But yeah, so this was a test knit. It was due on the 24th of October, I believe. And I had it finished in time, even with the illness. I cast it on the 1st of October, so it was a 3-week knit, including a week where I couldn't knit. So almost 2 weeks I knit this sweater. Crazy town. I have just jumped in here to finish objects. I should say I have 3 finished objects and only 1 WIP that I'm going to share with you today. So it should be a much shorter episode than last time. But I do have some acquisitions because I did make it to the knitting festival in Warsaw on October 1st, which is also the day I got sick. Yeah, fun times. So it won't be as long as last time, but I just wanted to jump on quickly today because my kids are both taking a nap together and I wanted to share with you what's been going on. So back to this sweater, I did make it with Gabbo wool, which is the recommended yarn. And I hit gauge. I did go down a little bit to get gauge needle size. So I think it calls for a 4mm, and I used a 3.5mm for the plain colour and a 4mm for the colourwork. So I hit gauge width-wise. My row gauge was a bit long for the colourwork, but it still ended up with the right size yoke for the pattern. She gives a little tip in the pattern of how to adjust. So it worked really, really well. However, the yoke is too long for my liking. So you can see arm start here. My armhole is actually up here. So that's quite a low, but we're like divided to the sleeves for me. If I'd done, there were 2 sizes I could have done. If I'd done the size down, it would have been a bit higher. But I don't think this is a pattern fault. I've had this happen a few times with a few different jumpers that I've knit, is that actually the yoke has been too long, even when it's been exactly what the pattern says. And so I think what I need to do is figure out what my ideal yoke length is from here to where it will go under the sleeves and adjust accordingly. Like I could take like 2-3 inches off there and I would be comfortable. So I think I just have very small shoulders. I have had people tell me that before. It's not a knitting problem or a pattern problem. I would definitely recommend this pattern. It is one of, like, I love the design and the colours. I mean, I chose the colours. I love the design and the look of the design. But I also, there were just so many little bits in there that I went, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I'm really glad you included that. Last episode I mentioned about how they say about knit this many centimetres or inches, but if your row gauge is different, that will end up with the wrong measurement. And she included things like that. So I found it a very beginner friendly pattern, but obviously it is colour work and you are doing things that more difficult. So I would call it advanced beginner or adventurous beginner or intermediate pattern, but it definitely had some tidbits in there that I would expect to be in beginner patterns that often aren't. So there you go. So this is the Nico sweater. I don't know, maybe I will keep it. I was thinking I'd probably gift it. I may keep it as just an oversized sweater for winter because it is quite comfy, and I will need sweaters in winter because we live in Poland and we get snow, and we'll see. But I would like to re-knit it and see if I can do a shorter yoke and see how that works. So keep your eyes tuned. Okay, the wool is Gabbo wool, baby alpaca. So it's 100% baby alpaca. It is so soft and delightful. I don't know if you'll be able to see the definition there, but it is like, it looks a little bit rough. My eye's poking over the top. It looks a little rough, but it is so soft. So everyone who looks at it and goes, oh, that looks like it might be scratchy. It's not. I definitely am interested in knitting with baby alpaca again. I'm definitely interested in knitting with this yarn again. What I would say is that on the pattern it says it's a worsted. I would say it knits more like a DK. Like I used a 3.75 to get gauge, millimeter to get gauge. Yeah, and it also, the pattern told you to gauge swatch for colour and stockinette separately so that you would know if you needed different needles for both. And I found that really helpful because I did need different needles for both. But I also found it stressful because my first gauge swatch was wildly off for the colour work. The second one, stocking was perfect, colour work was still off, but then I changed the way I knit. So I actually didn't do a third gauge swatch because I wasn't sure if I'd have enough yarn for it, but I knit the needle size down, which is what they recommended, 4mm, and I changed the way I knit colour work. So it was a bit stressful because I was learning to hold, I guess, to knit slightly differently to what I've done colour work in the past. And it meant that I hit gauge, with gauge, the right needles, everything was fine, but it was quite nerve-wracking at the beginning as I tried to figure out if it would. Yeah, and if you're interested, what I did was basically, when I do colour work, I always hold one with each hand. And so whenever I picked up a stitch, I put my thumb on the last stitch so I couldn't pull that tighter. And so whenever I was picking up a stitch of either one, I would put my thumb on the last one and hold it firm. And if I was picking up the alternate colour, so if I'd done, say, 3 stitches in white and I was picking up a red, I would make sure that the 3 white stitches were spread out evenly and hold them on my thumb as I then picked up the red, so the red had to stretch around them. I don't know how much sense that makes, but it made a big difference in terms of getting it. I'd be interested to see if I went down a needle size, if I'd still hit row gauge if I'd still hit width gauge doing that, but my row gauge would start shrinking up like it should. I'll try that for the next sweater. Alright, so that's an Nico sweater. I cast on the 1st of October. I cast off on the 21st of October. And I was sick for a week in there. Pretty happy with that. So that was not the first finish, but that was the biggest finish. The other 2 finishes are socks. Now this one, I think I'd had 1 sock finished last episode. I now have 2. These ones are the Veronica socks. The Veronica socks by Comfort Zone Knits. This was also a test knit, and you can see there's a beautiful cable, a twist, and then on the front, if I just smush this around, oh yeah, that works. You can see there's this beautiful diamond pattern up the front as well. So it's a really fun knit, obviously, when you're wearing it side on. you get that, but on the front you have this beautiful pattern. So this is called the Veronica socks. It is now live. You can go to Ravelry. I think you can get the Nico sweater in English already. If you can't, oh no, the Nico sweater in English will be released this month in November. The Nico sweater in Polish is already released. So if you're interested, you can go to Ravelry, keep an eye out, or next podcast I will let you know if it's live. Veronica socks, already live. This is by Renia of Comfort Zone Knits. I will link my project pages below, so if there's something you want to find, you can go there. And I'll also link yarn dyers and suppliers and things below. So anything I say here, look in the description box and you'll be able to find. I didn't even tell you. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Kirsty Knits and Sews. You're welcome. All right. I'm just going to make a note there. Beautiful. All right. So Veronica socks. I did these on 2.5mm needles. The pattern called for 2.25, but I knew gauge-wise I'd need the 2.5. And I did size medium because it's got some cabling. I knew that it would be a little bit cinched in, so I knew the medium stitch count would work for me. I haven't worn them yet. They've just been sitting on the blockers waiting for a podcast, but I finished them on the 30th of September. So I finished these a month ago. They've been sitting above my desk, looking pretty, waiting for me to record. The yarn for this one, I bought undyed and dyed it myself. It was just a bit of fun. I was playing around with some different dyeing techniques, and that's what I did. I was going for autumn colours, and I think I nailed that one. I love that there are just like little pops of green that you definitely see in the forest. Yeah, makes me happy. So they're the Veronica socks. They were finished, they didn't take too long to finish. I wanted to get them done. I think I had a 2-week deadline, and I only had to get one sock done, but I got both finished before the deadline. So yay. The next socks took me a lot longer. These ones are the Follow Your Path socks, which is a pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, Kay Litton of the Crazy Sock Lady. You've got a beautiful texture and then some twisted stitches up here that gives a kind of faux cable look. I cast these on at the end of August and I finished them mid-October. So about 6 weeks. They weren't in a rush. They were holiday knitting, but I'm very happy to have them finished and be able to wear them. The pattern, I believe I did a medium again because of the cables. I knew it would cinch in. And the yarn I used, I'm pretty sure is either a sport or a DK. It was gifted to me by a friend, so I don't have the label anymore. It was the first sock yarn I ever owned. So I don't have the label anymore. It was gifted by a friend. And it's just much thicker than what I would expect from a fingering. So I believe it is at least a sport. I would use it in a DK project, I'm sure. And this one, the heel was an Eye of the Partridge heel, but it didn't really show up because the yarn was so thick, I think. So you can see a bit of a pattern, but it's not popping like a normal Eye of the Partridge heel would. I love them. I'm also excited to wear these. They've been sitting there for a few weeks. And it's getting colder and I want to wear my socks. I need more socks so I don't have to wash them as often. Anyone else do that? You have piles of hand nets or gentle, delicate washes that just kind of sit there. For me, I put them through the washing machine for the most part. If it's a super wash, I do. But then I have to go hang them out, and then they have to lie there and sit there for a while, and then the kids pull them off, and it just gets a bit much. So they sit there and wait until I have enough to do a full load. Anyway, so excited to wear them. All right, so that's all my finished objects. I do have a couple of whips that I've worked on, but the last month has been pretty monogamous knitting with first this sweater and then the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along Twists and Turns. I have been planning to do that since the last one. I did Shawlography last year, which was my first Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, and I loved it. I did it, my sister and I did a knit along. She's in Australia, and it was lots of fun. So this year there are 6 of us who are doing the knit along, and we're having weekly chats, which is really lovely to, be able to chat with other knitters, but also find out how everyone's projects are going. But this sweater was due, like I said, October 24th, and I cast it on the 1st. I still cast the shawl on, Twist and Turn shawl on October 6th, but I didn't get much knitting done until this was finished because I knew I'd be tight on this deadline after being sick. And I really wanted to make sure that I was able to get this in time. So I hadn't finished Clue 1 when Clue 2 came out. I don't even know if I'd finished Clue 1 when Clue 3 came out. Oh, I just finished Clue 1 when Clue 3 came out. Maybe. No. I think I just finished Clue 1 when Clue 4 came out. So I was very behind. I had spoilers because, like I said, I was doing it with some friends and my sister and my mother. And so as they made progress, I was still looking at what they'd done. I haven't seen the finished shawl yet. Clue 4 came out last Thursday. I haven't seen the finished shawl yet. I have seen one alternative to the finished shawl, but I'm still not looking for spoilers. As my friends finish, I will look at their finished objects and have it that way. But I just feel like it's less of a spoiler if it's a friend who's done the work alongside you than if it's a random picture on Instagram. But it also means I haven't been posting pictures of it on Instagram because I don't want to spoil it for other people. Yeah, I'm so far behind, I doubt I would, but I always try and make sure that I wait until the end of the knit along before I post, because if other people are doing it and they're as slow as me and they've been avoiding spoilers and they accidentally saw mine, I'd feel bad. So I haven't been posting on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, which means this will be the first time you'll have been able to see it. Now, I'll do yarn first. I bought the yarn at Druda's Lot, and it's by Miss Knitski, Knitski. Again, I'll link them below. And these are the colours that I am using. So this is my main colour, my contrast colour, and my accent colour. Now this colour is very close to my winter jacket, and so I wanted a scarf that I could wear kind of over my winter jacket, or a shawl I could wear over my winter jacket that would tie in but not be all green. And so I thought if I did that, it would have the colour pop, but it wouldn't be too much. I've gone back and forth on whether I've been happy with this colour choice, but at the end of the day, I'll wear the scarf, so it doesn't really matter. So these are all the 50/50 silk merino superwash from Miss Knitski. And they are, like, they're soft, they're merino, but they're also silky. So they have this beautiful sheen, like shine and drape, and I'm really loving it. Now, if by any chance you're doing the shawl and you're not up to Clue 2, I am on the last section of Clue 2. So if you're not at that and you don't want to be spoiled, look away. But I do understand, in general, I'm very behind. So you're probably laughing at me that I'm giving you a spoiler alert on that one. So here is my shawl. I have to say this first section looks very similar to a lot of people's, because a lot of people chose kind of 2 greys to do that little section. But you can even see here, like it's quite large and it's got a beautiful drape because of that silk. So that's section 1 in the middle. And if you're not doing the mystery knit along and you don't know, this section here, if I undo a couple I can show you, I'll do them up again at the end, is just little loopy bits. And so all you do is you loop that through there, and then you loop the next one through, and then you loop the next one through, and you get this really cool braided look. It's such a fun technique. I'd never done it before. When it started and I saw those loop things, I was like, wow, this looks terrible, and what is he thinking? And then I saw that he looped them through like that, and I went, oh, that's actually really cool. I like that. Anyway, so that's clue 1. Clue 2 is this on both sides. So this is section 2, and then on the other side, section 3. Down the bottom here is section 4, and on the other side, section 5. And those all make up clue 2. So I haven't even started clue 3 yet. This is all garter stitch, this side with knits, on the other side with purl. Some people had tension problems with how different they knit and purl. I didn't have any problem with that. Yeah, so that line section, and then down the bottom, I have some things I had to change balls and things that I haven't tied in, but down the bottom is the cable section. Flip it up this way, maybe. There we go. The cable section. I love cables, so I found that super relaxing to knit. It only took me, I think, a day, maybe 2 days to do one of the cable sections, because I can just sit down, pick it up and knit it. It's not stressful for me at all. I did it without a cable needle. If you've been here a while, you would know that I have done a full jumper cable sweater without a cable needle. That one, they were 4-stitch cables, but they were with a worsted yarn. These ones were 8-stitch cables, but with a fingering. So I found it actually comparable to do those. I really like cables, so I'm very, very happy with that part, and it just looks so pretty. And so on the other side, I finished the wing section, but I have not done the cable section. And you can see here, I'm just picking up. I was actually sitting down knitting this when my son went to have his nap, and I went, oh, I have time to do a podcast. So I'm doing a podcast instead of picking up the rest of those cables. I may still have time after, we'll see. But that is my shawl so far. I hopefully will have clue 2 finished before Thursday, which is when I think it officially finishes, and have cast on clue 3 when I do my final knit along with my friends. We've been catching up every week, except for the second week, but we've been catching up every other week to cast on and chat. Okay. This one, I love this mug. I bought this one from Wool Fashion, I think is what it was called, which is the knitting festival in Warsaw, which I will talk about now. So that's all of my whips and finished objects. If you were just here to see the knitting side of it, then you're absolutely welcome to leave right now. And I should say, if you're new here, thank you for coming. If this is your first time, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have been here for a while, thanks for coming back. It's so nice to share with you what I've been doing. I do have some acquisitions, some things that I've bought to share with you. So if you want to see that, stick around, and then I will share a little bit at the end about life things as well. So it's up to you if you just wanted to see the finished objects and live vicariously through me with what I've knit. You can do that. Oh, although I will say, I didn't share last podcast about how much I had knit in September because it wasn't the end yet. I finished 1,459 grams in September of finished objects. I finished 8 projects in September, which I think is just a little nuts. I had a crazy knit month. I also had been on holidays, so that helped. But I also bought much more than that. So I ended up, I used 1,459. I bought 3,400, a lot more. So I ended up with a big surplus from last month, from September. In October, I finished 2 projects, which was this and these socks. And it was only 656 grams total. But I then bought 1,500 grams, which I will share with you next. So I now have almost 22,000 grams or 2.2 kilograms of stash. I'm tracking it. I'm not particularly trying not to add to it. I, in general, would like to use more than I buy because I don't need yarn sitting there that I'm not using, and I don't need to spend money on yarn that I'm not using. But I have September and October and now November, I will be going to festivals. And so I went to, obviously, one in September and bought lots of yarn, one in October and bought more yarn. And I am going to another one this month and I will probably buy more yarn, and that's okay. I haven't bought a huge amount of yarn over the past year, and so these 3 months are kind of the bulk of buying. And I have been knitting a lot, so obviously not as much going out as coming in these months. But I also know that come true winter, which will be December, I won't be able to buy yarn in person. And so the yarn that I'm buying now is yarn that I will knit up over winter, hopefully. All right, so wool fashion. I should knit it this way so you can see the sheep and drink it this way. All right, so wool fashion. Wool fashion was a very different experience to Druda's Lot. So Druda's Lot, which was in Toruń, in Poland, was crazy busy. Like, you could barely get to tables sometimes. It was just, there was a lot of exhibitors, and so the space for each one seemed quite small, and so you couldn't always get in or see product. And I had my kids with me, which always makes things a little bit more hectic. Wool fashion, which is the one in Warsaw, which is the capital of Poland, it wasn't a bigger room, but there were less exhibitors and each exhibitor had more space. Each vendor had more space, which made it a much more relaxed process. You could go, have a look, walk around. They didn't have as much seating, but they did have a bit of seating in the middle of the room that you could sit down and rest before you go looking around again. And they didn't have food available in the market. I think there were some downstairs that vendors could go grab food, but in the main area there wasn't. Which meant that when I was like, it's time to leave for lunch, I was like, I'll probably just leave and not come back. Where if they had a cafe, I'd probably have sat down in the cafe and knit all afternoon. But yeah, it was a great day. I ended up leaving my kids here. My husband looked after them for the day. It was a bit of a birthday surprise, and I was able to go by myself on a 5.5-hour train ride to go to this festival, or this market. And it was, like I said, it was good. It was a very different experience, and I'm looking forward to going to the next one, which is Valniany Targ, so wool market, to be able to compare the 3 of them. So what I can tell is that there are 3 main knitting festivals in Poland. So I'm excited to be able to do 3 back to back so I can really compare. So what did I get? I got this beautiful mug. This is from Luca Ceramica. It's not going to focus very well. but I will link below. Very nice, microwavable and dishwasher safe. Haven't tested either of them, but that's what they said. I bought some knitting needles that came in this little bag. Kindness, the Mindful collection. And inside the bag was this little pouch. Now, I've been wanting to get interchangeables a lot, and I avoided these because of the connotations behind them. But when I looked at them, they looked nice, they felt nice, they were half the price of the Chowgu ones that I had been considering. And in the end I said, you know what, whatever story is behind them, I'm not bound by that. So I bought them anyway, and then I bought a couple of extras. So this pair here did not come in the set. They are interchangeables, and they are short interchangeables, and like I said, I bought an extra set because I knew for this sweater I would need a bit of extra. I need a different size. So that's how short they are. Nice and small. Each one has their US size. So this is 3.75 millimeter US 5. That's not going to focus at all. And on the other side it has a little word. This one says create. Sorry, I need to figure out a better way for when I'm showing small things because this camera does not like to focus up close. I just use my phone. So anyway, these came in a little thing, and there are spots so that when I buy intermediary sizes, I still have somewhere to put them. And then it came with this little pouch. And inside the little pouch is another little pouch, which has like the twisty things and end stoppers. It came with a little needle size thing with one side US, the other side millimeters, and it came with, this is not one of them, but it came with two little interchangeable things, which I think give me a 16 and a 20 inch, I believe. 16 and 22 inch, which I'm using as placeholders on my mystery knit along, so I won't show you them now. I did buy then something to make them up to a 40 inch, which I've used for the sweater. And I also needed a 2.75 millimeter needle for the ribbing for this sweater, so I bought that as well because I didn't have the smaller ones. Yeah, I really like them. I will use them a lot. I can't do a sleeve comfortably on them, or a sock 16 inches too big. I think I'd need a 12 inch. So I'd be interested in seeing if there is a 12 inch option and trying them out as well. But I've said before, I have trouble with holding needles if the needle length is too short. And that needle length would be too short, but as soon as you add in the cable and have that extra little bit of metal solid, it's actually the perfect length. And I loved using them. I loved just being able to knit round and round without, like, especially for the collar and the yoke. I found it brilliant. So I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for some interchangeables, these ones were great and so affordable. Like, I don't know where you live, but it was 289 zloty. So that's about 90 Australian dollars for the set. Really great. I do like Knit Pro for their affordability in general. So other things I got from the festival, I got some yarn dye. I ran out of yellow, so I got, I think, 6 pots, but I'm only going to show you the one. So jacquard, that was very exciting. I also got some bright coloured pom-poms, or dark coloured, deep coloured. So I'm very excited to make some more beanies with these. And then I got from Rensami crochet.pl, rensami.pl. I got these beautiful little cuff things to go on beanies or sweaters. I got a whole bunch of them. Yeah, so like Dzieło Rok, handmade, so it's in Polish and English. I love this one. Żona mi zrobiła, which is my wife made it. So I'm going to make something for my hubby and put that on. Yeah, there were just a few different cute things that I can now add to projects. I don't know how many I got in total, but they're cute. And then the last thing that I bought from the festival is British blue wool. Wow, that is blowing out massively. I'm sorry. British blue wool. Now this one is 100% British blue-faced Leicester wool, BFL. If you have ever heard of BFL, that's what it is, and I'm butchering it. This is a DK weight, I believe. I'm sure it said somewhere. But I have a pattern that I've been wanting to do that I actually bought yarn for from the last festival that I then decided I didn't want to use it for that. I wanted to use it for a different sweater. And so I bought this one to make that sweater with, but I'm going to over dye it with black to see if I can get it into a dark brown. Now I'm not going to do really, really dark black, but I will over dye it with black and see if I can get a nice dark brown. I'm really excited to try that. Obviously I haven't done it yet. I've been busy knitting on other things. I haven't got out my dye pots. But that will hopefully be the Braidley Cobb Stitch sweater by Sarah Hatton. Yeah, I'm hoping to get close to the colour that she knitted in. Yeah, so we'll see. It felt very strange buying yarn knowing I was planning to dye it, even though it was already dyed. But I also bought this one as the main colour, and these ones, if I can hold them all up, as contrast colours to try and do a Fair Isle pattern. So I wanted to do this blue as the main, and then I'll try and do a Fair Isle pattern incorporating the rest, and possibly the orange as well if I have spare of that. I don't have a pattern in mind. I don't know yet if I'll find a pattern or if I'll try and design one myself. But I thought that would be fun to do a nice little sweater or a cardigan. Yeah. When I bought all this yarn, I was gifted this pattern, which I actually don't mind. I'd probably do it without the ruffle sleeve, but I was gifted this pattern, so that was lovely. And when I bought one more ball of the red. I should say the red is sangria and the pink is pudrova. And I bought one more of the red because I did so much gauge swatching. I wasn't sure if I'd had enough. I did have enough, so I have one ball left over. But when I bought that at the show, they gifted me this, which I think is so cute. And it's by the same person actually. Karolina Adamczyk. But I just thought they were so cute. So I'll probably make some of them with my leftover yarn of this. And I may put them on the Christmas tree or something. So cute. Excuse me. Oh, when I bought the BFL, they also gifted me some, there we go, some stitch markers. So I'm not sure, haven't used them yet. I'm not sure if I will use them or put them aside for, I don't know, a prize or something at some point. All right, and so then not from Wool Fashion, but the other thing that I have bought since the last one is some Regia Perfect. And they knit up to make this kind of Christmassy looking yarn, which I'm very excited about. Christmas looking socks. I saw the Crazy Sock Lady do a very similar pair, but with green toes, cuffs, heels. And I really wanted to try it. So I went searching and I found it on Amazon. And the idea is that you pull off the yellow yarn and you start at the end of the yellow yarn and then you just knit, and the contrasting cuff, heels and toes are built into the yarn. So I'm very excited to give that a try. And that will be probably my next easy knit. I was considering casting it on before, but I wanted to show you in the ball so you could see. So the yellow is not part of the pattern at all. And then the last thing that I have acquired is some more dye, but this one is called Rip. This one my friends picked up for me in Joann's in the United States and brought it back for me. And it is for wool. It also says it's for cotton and nylon, but I believe there's a colour fast thing that you need to add if you're doing it for cotton. But it has a liquid version and a powder version. I believe, I haven't looked up too much, but I believe you can make the powder version into a liquid version. But I think these dye the same amount of yarn. So I got both because I like sprinkling and speckling, but I also like having things ready to go. Why not? So I'm excited to try them and see how they compare. The other dye that I bought, Jacquard, I have never used before either. So I've got some experimenting to do. So those are all my acquisitions. It was quite a lot. And like I said, I need to do a lot of knitting. The Stephen West Mystery Knit Along takes a long time. So if you're just here for the knitting and the products and things like that, I will say goodbye now. I will just sit and chat for a few minutes about life and probably the knit along a little bit more. So yeah, the Mystery Knit Along, it takes a lot of time. I really like it because I learn a lot of new techniques and like, you know, it's going to be a shawl, but you have no idea what he's doing half the time or why he's doing it that way until you're done, and then you go, oh, that makes sense. Like the dangles that like braided up into that beautiful braid. I was like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. They were annoying to knit, I will tell you that. But the finished product is gorgeous. And so it's nice to just have something that you're knitting for the knitting. The finished product may or may not be to your liking, but the process of knitting it and learning is really fun. So I really enjoy that. I am finding it a little stressful that it's so close to Christmas. And I say this as someone who's already done all my Christmas knitting, or most of my Christmas knitting. I had most of my Christmas knitting finished in July or August, and I think July, and shipped out in August because it's for people in Australia and it takes a long time to get there. So I don't have a huge amount of Christmas knitting to do, but I do want to knit socks for myself and my husband and my children to go in stockings. And I do want to make a Christmas tree skirt, which will probably be crochet for the tree. Like there are quite a few little things that I want to do that I kind of don't have the brain space to do until after the Mystery Knit Along is done. But more than that, it's getting cold. And so it's not necessarily Christmas things that I want to have done, but I want to knit for my family for the cold. So I want to knit mittens. I want to knit, my husband asked for a shawl that I knit last year for someone else. So I have the yarn to knit him that. Actually, I started that one right after the Mystery Knit Along last year. So I'll probably do the same with his one this year. But I want to knit that. I want to knit him sweaters. I want to knit me sweaters. So there's a lot of winter knitting. There we go, winter knitting. I want to do winter knitting. And I guess a shawl is winter knitting. But it's not necessarily the winter knitting I want to do right now. So I'm going to keep going with it. I'll definitely keep working on it. It's one that if I put away, I may forget about, and it will be a lot harder to bring back out. I've spoken about it before, like it's that current knowledge. When you're knitting on a project, you know what you need to do, where you're up to, how it works. If you put it away, sometimes just that barrier of figuring out where you're up to again can make it almost impossible, or feel almost impossible. So I want to keep knitting on it, but I might start doing it, you know, that's my nighttime knitting and work on something else during the day, or this is my daytime knitting and work on something else during the night, just so I can start working on more projects again. Like I said, this month has been a very monogamous knitting month. I've done this sweater and I've done the shawl, and the socks. I finished them off. They were mostly done before I got sick. So it's been strange. If you know me at all, you know I'm not a monogamous knitter. I like knitting lots of things. Yeah. So I'll keep going with this at least until Thursday, get as much as I can before our final chat. And then I will probably, I have to decide. I'll probably, I don't want to cast on the other shawl until this one is finished. Although they are very different. The other one is a much more basic knit than this one. But no, I don't want to cast on another shawl. I don't know, maybe I will just finish this. Maybe I've turned into a monogamous knitter. Like I didn't show you today. I did cast on a pair of vanilla socks. They're upstairs or in a bag, so I didn't pull them out. I'll show you next time. I'm just started the heel on the first sock. But even that, every time I pick it up, I feel like I'm cheating on my shawl. It's a weird feeling. So anyway, we'll see. I'll hopefully be able to record again in 2 weeks, so you'll have another podcast and you can see if I've finished the shawl, if I've been a monogamous knitter, if I've gone back to having 5 things that I'm actively working on. I think I like having multiple projects so I can pull the thing that makes most sense for that situation. At the moment I've got 2 active, the shawl and the sock, and it's just not as inspiring. I think because I feel like I need to work on the shawl. I think that's it. Like I'm enjoying working on the shawl, but I think it's the feeling that I need to work on the shawl that makes it hard. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I made it to 2 of the knitting festivals. The next one is the 26th of November. It's in Wrocław, which is another Polish city, which apparently is beautiful, and I'm very looking forward to seeing the city as well. The whole family will go down. We'll actually be there on a work conference, but I've spoken to the people who are organising the conference, who are also my bosses, and they're making sure that I have the time to go on the Saturday to the festival, which is very exciting. And I'm even going to do a workshop at this one. So I'll be doing a spinning workshop with a drop spindle. I'm so excited. So not next time, but the time after, I might have something to share that I have spun. I've wanted to do spinning for a long time. Other than that, we're getting colder. I've been mushroom hunting a couple of times, foraging, that was fun. We've had multiple sicknesses going through the house. My son, who's 3, might be getting sick again. And my daughter's just woken up. So I'm going to say goodbye now, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for coming. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Happy knitting!